how leadership techniques can help you this holiday season. By the time you are watching this, I know the holiday season is in full swing. You've got holiday parties, Christmas parties, family events, all of these things planned. And some of you are like, yeah. So we're going to talk about how to use leadership techniques in navigating your family holiday Christmas parties, because believe it or not, that is the number one stressor this time of year. So the first thing I want to talk about is canned responses. Now, this may be a new idea for you. Canned responses are things that you predetermine you're going to say, like in a can, and then you can open up that can, pull out your response, and say, yes, Uncle Frank, I don't want to talk about that today. Done. So many times we are at holiday parties and we're around people, sometimes family members, sometimes that third cousin who only shows up at Christmas. And we have to engage in conversations that make us uncomfortable, or like, oh man, I really don't like this person, or Uncle Frank's had a little too much spiked eggnog this year, all these things. Well, we're going to talk about some things that we can do to make this a little bit easier, and we're just going to use our leadership techniques that we've already learned. So, canned responses. This has been something that is great for me. Sometimes I am not super quick on my feet in certain situations, and so when I know I'm going to be in those situations, I have canned responses that I've kind of memorized. And these aren't long, these are like one sentence responses. That if somebody says something to me that makes me feel kind of weird, I go to this canned response, and that's my response. I don't have to think about it, and it oftentimes gets me out of a situation. So what does that look like this year? Well, let's just dive into the fun stuff. You know, we just had a presidential election here in the United States in 2024, and that just finished up a month ago. So what if you have a family member who wants to talk about politics? You know, the thing at family dinners that just kills the mood? Well, maybe you have a canned response about that. I'm going to use Uncle Frank as my go-to person. So if your name is Frank and you're watching this, I apologize, no offense intended. That's just the generic name that I'm coming up with. So if Uncle Frank's like, oh, so what'd you think about the election? Well, do you really want to talk about the election? Maybe some of you do. Maybe some of you are like, yes, let's engage in that conversation, and then everybody else leaves the room. But if you don't really want to engage in that conversation, what is a response that is still personable to you, that sounds like you, that you can say? Think about that before you go to the holiday party. Say, Uncle Frank comes up and says, oh, what'd you think about the election? Who did you vote for? Why did you vote for that person? And all this other stuff. And he just kind of gets in your business about it. Maybe it's just like, hey, Uncle Frank, you know what? I really don't want to talk about politics right now. I'd really rather just enjoy your company and maybe hear about your life or something that you've done that's cool and that would be worth sharing. But yeah, I really don't want to talk about politics right now. Maybe we can get coffee and we can talk about that some other time. Done. Now Uncle Frank has two things. One, he knows that you're not going to talk about politics, but you have also established a very hard boundary for Uncle Frank. You've done it kindly, you've done it in a respectful way, but you have established a boundary that he knows, yeah, I guess I'm not going to be able to cross that. So Uncle Frank is going to do one of two things. He's either going to say, oh, all right, well, what's going on with me is I got a new job, or I got a new car, or I'm retiring, or whatever. Or Uncle Frank is going to find probably your cousin who's in the next room and go badger them about the election. Either way, you don't have to deal with it. As leaders, we often have to use de-escalation techniques. Now, in my previous careers, a lot of you know I was an assistant principal, and that often entailed me suspending students from school. Oftentimes, I did not have pleasant conversations with parents during those interactions, so I had to rely on de-escalation techniques. Same thing can happen at holiday parties. Now, I know when everybody's family gets together, it's just like a Hallmark movie, right? Right. Some of you are laughing right now because you know that you're going to go to a holiday party and somebody's going to say something to somebody else, and there's going to be an argument, and somebody's going to be mad, and grandma's going to be like, oh, everybody just calm down. And yeah, like I get that. So when we talk about de-escalation techniques, what are things that you can say or do? Sometimes it's a physical action that you can do that de-escalates a situation. Maybe you just put on a mask that says, I'm just going to listen. And that is very disarming to people. If somebody says, well, what do you think? Let's go back to the election. What do you think about the election? I don't really have any thoughts about that. Why don't you tell me what you think about the election? No, I don't have anything to share. I'd just like to hear your thoughts on it. That's all. Oh, I don't agree or disagree. I just want to hear your thoughts. Yeah, feel free to share. Now, some of us, like me, I can do that because I can detach my emotions if I agree or disagree, and I can have that conversation and just listen to something that I completely disagree with. Others of you who are watching this can't do that because you feel your emotions rising up and you want to express yourself, or you might get mad or angry, or maybe it's not about the election. Maybe it's a personal family issue that's being discussed. How can you de-escalate those things? Now, what if you don't have any de-escalation techniques? So that's something that we need to talk about. How do we de-escalate a situation that may be getting tense, that you don't want to be in anymore? Let's talk about the physical part first. Sometimes it is simply moving out of that space. Maybe it's taking a step back and just allowing the person to have their space. Maybe you go into the next room and say, oh, you know what, I'm going to go check on my daughter. I think she's trying to get some cake and she's not real good with a spatula yet, so I'll be right back. And then maybe you don't come back. Now that's avoidance, sure. But we're talking about one holiday party a year that you have to get through that you might not want to be at. So we're not talking about a Hallmark movie. We're talking about real life. This may be the Griswold vacation for you. What are some verbal de-escalation techniques that you can use? A lot of you know that I am a Bible-believing Christian. One of the things in the Bible states a quiet response deflects anger. So if you have somebody who is trying to engage you in a heated conversation, just have a softer voice, something that's a little bit quieter, and maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. But a soft, quiet response oftentimes will invite the other person to not be as loud and boisterous about whatever it is they're talking about, because it takes two people to yell. Now, I've used this example with students before. If I come around the corner and I see two students yelling at each other, who is the aggressor? I don't know. But if I come around the corner and I see one student yelling at another student and the other student's just like, hey man, like I don't want to deal with this. Hey, automatically, who looks like the aggressor? The one who's yelling. And oftentimes at a holiday party, people don't want to be seen as the aggressor. So use de-escalation techniques so that you can enjoy your time. And even if this is like, oh, I'm going to my wife's work party and I don't like anybody there. Yeah, I get it. Sometimes you just grin, smile, drink your eggnog in the corner, and find somebody who you can talk to. And maybe that's somebody who you don't even know. Maybe it's just like, hey, are you here for this party too? And your wife, what made you come? Yeah. Hey, what do you like? Do you like football? Yeah, me too. All right, let's talk about football. Okay. And then you make a new friend, and then the two of you just stand in the corner for the rest of the night. Whatever you need to do, get through it. The third strategy I want to talk about is self-awareness. Know thyself. Socrates said that, a couple thousand years ago. And that is huge. Know yourself. Know your mental state of mind. Know what you're feeling emotionally. Know what you're thinking about. If you're going into a holiday party with Uncle Frank and you know Uncle Frank is going to want to talk politics with you, and you know that you are not in a good mental space to talk politics, what are you going to do? Because it's unavoidable. You're going to have to deal with it in some way, shape, or form. How can you handle that situation? Know yourself. Know what you're feeling. And don't deny me like, oh, you know what? I'm really not that irritable right now. Ask your spouse, are you? Because if you are, maybe you need to go for a cup of coffee. Maybe you need to go for a walk. Maybe you need to go for a workout. Maybe you need to go to McDonald's and have a Big Mac so that you're happy and not hungry. Because if any of you get hangry, you know what I'm talking about. So know yourself, know your mental state, know what you're feeling, and think about the day. Like, okay, I've got to go here, I've got to go here, I've got to go here, and now I have to go to the family party and I'm already going to be beat and worn out. Okay, what things can change? Do the 3 errands you have to run, can those be done tomorrow? And maybe you just stay home, chill out, relax, and then go to the holiday party as the one thing that you have to do so you're in a better frame of mind for that holiday party. Maybe that's the thing that you should do so that you can enjoy yourself, the people around you will enjoy themselves, and you will have a good time. This one is my favorite because it's kind of fun and a little bit silly, but pre-planned rescue techniques. I have participated in pre-planned rescue missions before, and I won't tell you where or why or who was involved because some of you who know me personally may have seen me do this before. But if I am in a group setting and there are people that I'm close to that I know, and maybe my friend has an Uncle Frank and I know about this and I see Uncle Frank then engaging them in conversation and I see them and they see me, then I might just, that's my wingman, that's my wing person, maybe that's my wife or whoever. Maybe I just walk over to that person and say, hey, Grandma wants to talk to you about something. I don't know, something about a recipe that you asked her about. But anyways, she's in the next room and she wants to talk to you. Can you go talk to her right now, please? Sure, great. Sorry, Uncle Frank, Grandma wants, sorry, yep, cool. And you just helped your spouse, your friend, your cousin, whoever, out of a sticky situation that they didn't want to be in. So, pre-planned rescue missions. It's a thing. I've done it. It works incredibly well. Try it for yourself. This one takes us to a higher level on the emotional intelligence scale. This one requires quite a bit of fortitude on your own self-awareness so that you can participate in this. And that is, maybe you can be someone else's safe space. Maybe you're at the holiday party with your wife and you know Uncle Frank is going to come and want to talk to her or whatever. Maybe you don't necessarily be your spouse's safe space, but maybe you take Uncle Frank. Maybe you provide that space. Maybe you have the emotional capacity to do that, to compartmentalize your feelings. And maybe you take one for the team. You go talk to Uncle Frank. Maybe you even get it out of Uncle Frank's system before it gets anywhere else. You see Uncle Frank come in the door, taking his coat off, he's grabbing his eggnog, we're putting presents under the tree, and everybody's like, it's Uncle Frank. And maybe you say, I got this. And then you hear the Top Gun theme song playing behind you, and you walk over to Uncle Frank. Hey, Uncle Frank, how you doing? Hey, Todd, what's going on? Hey, I know you're kind of engaged in the political scene. You want to talk to me about the election this year? How your thoughts are? Oh boy, do I! Uncle Frank's going to eat that up. Now, you spend 15, 20 minutes getting all of Uncle Frank's thoughts, ideas out of his system, and now Uncle Frank doesn't have to talk to anybody else about that. You just took one for the team. Now, I do not suggest you do this if we go back to the other section we just completed, knowing yourself and knowing your emotional capacity. If you're not prepared for that, absolutely do not do that technique because that's not for you. But if you can compartmentalize your emotions, or you're an emotionally intelligent enough person where you can kind of detach and separate yourself, maybe that's what you can do for the rest of the family. Again, those are things, I'm not saying that my family is a traumatic event or anything like that, but I have been in situations where, yeah, you know what? I'm going to go talk to the person that nobody else wants to talk to just so everybody else can have a fantastic time at the party. Because I can do that. Those are things that I can do. And in certain situations, I have. It's been fantastic, and I'll probably do it again. So if you can do that for your family or whatever situation or setting that you're in, maybe you can be the hero of the evening for that day. If any of you are married, this is for you. This is one that my wife and I have come up against a few times, and that is simply share your vision for the day. Now, oftentimes you've got, your spouse's side to go to on a certain day, and then you've got to go to your side on the other day. And usually the way that it works in our house is if we're going to my wife's side of the family, I kind of let her dictate what that schedule, what that day, what that time looks like. And if we're going to my side, then I kind of say, okay, we're going to leave at this time. We're going to go at this point. Convey the vision of the day to your spouse. That's hugely important. If your spouse has a good understanding of what you have in mind, they can more readily accommodate that and go along with it. Now, oftentimes we're like, okay, well, we always go to my mom's house after we have lunch on Christmas Day, and we've done that for 15 years. Why are you not ready? Oh, well, because you didn't convey that. I mean, it happens once a year. We can't always remember everything. So Convey to your spouse your vision for the day so that way you are on the same page. That right there will reduce your holiday stress by leaps and bounds. All right, we're going to go back to Uncle Frank and the election because everybody loves Uncle Frank and talking about the election, right? So this is where we're going to go with this. This is something that I've talked about in previous videos. Use encouragement as a coaching tool. And you're like, well, that's a very leadership-oriented technique. How are we going to use encouragement as a coaching tool with Uncle Frank as he's talking about the election and I'm trying to go get some ham and lasagna from the kitchen that Grandma just made, and how are you doing that, Todd? That doesn't make any sense. Easy. You encourage Uncle Frank. Say, wow, Uncle Frank, you've really thought about this. Wow, those are some really interesting thoughts. Thank you for sharing that with me. Uncle Frank, I really understand and respect your point of view on this. Now, I do know there are other people who may not, but thank you for sharing that with me. That helps me understand you better. I would just encourage you, maybe you and I just have this conversation and maybe you don't have it with cousin Jimmy over there because I know he's probably not going to agree with you. But you have some really well thought out arguments and points of interest that you've expressed. Yeah, that's great. You can do that with just about anything. Now, did you hear what I said? I never said that I agreed with Uncle Frank. I never said that I necessarily disagreed with Uncle Frank. All I did was encouraged him in his thoughts. And that's it. So now I've encouraged him in his thoughts. I've affirmed him. He's got some oxytocin going on in his brain because now he feels good about what he said. He feels good that he and I have had a positive interaction. That's going to bring him down, make him more chill. That's just brain chemical science right there. And then I've also kind of given him a heads up about cousin Jimmy over there. Hey, cousin Jimmy may not be on the same page with you, so maybe not talk to him about that. That way you are helping establish a boundary for somebody else if you have the emotional capacity to do that. Now, I talk about that a lot. Emotional intelligence, you have to know that about yourself and other people. But if you can be that for somebody else, encourage them, man, the oxytocin that happens in their brain automatically brings them down because now they feel good about themselves, they feel more relaxed, they're probably less likely to engage in controversial conversation or start any mess at the dinner table. Well, Grandma's got all of her grandkids and children sitting in the same room. So take that to heart. The last one I'm going to talk about today is something that requires a little bit more emotional intelligence. But it's easy to do if you are able to detach, if you are able to control your emotions enough where you're not bothered, get angry, or feel like you have to defend or set boundaries or anything like that. And that is simply this. Everybody has somebody in their family or at a holiday gathering, work party, or whatever it is, that person is the talker. They are going to talk. They may not let anybody else talk or whatever, but they are going to dominate the conversation. Okay. Can you let them? Is that something that you emotionally can do? Because if you can, man, they might get it all out with you. So what I mean by that is this. If you have somebody in your family or at your holiday work party that is dominating a conversation, let them. Ask questions, short questions. Interesting. Can you expand on that? Where did you come up with that idea? Just ask questions. Let them do all of the talking, and then what you can do, because you're not actually engaging in your mind in this conversation, you're really kind of detached. So they're kind of just talking to a blank wall. They don't know that, but that's something that you can do. Is it a little bit deceptive? Yeah, maybe, but sometimes we're in awkward situations with people that we don't necessarily want to be in, and sometimes we just have to survive the situation. That is what it is, right? Yeah, let's all agree on that because that happens for real. So maybe that's just what you do. You just ask questions and let them talk. Let them talk as much as they want. Hey, don't keep going. I'm going to get some pie over here. Yeah, Oh, yeah, that's great. Great wings. Grandma, love the lasagna. Thank you. Yeah, no, keep going. Keep going. Yeah. Let them talk. Just let them talk. I hope some of these strategies that are from leadership will help you navigate this Christmas season, this holiday season with your family, with your loved ones, with your coworkers a little bit better. If you have questions, please see me in the comments below or send me a message. I would love to engage with you and talk with you about ways I can help you increase your leadership ability or maybe just navigate the holiday season. Merry Christmas.